when did it flip on Klay Thompson in terms of like, not going to say the hatred, but like the harsh criticism of Klay Thompson?
The zero tolerance.
You know when it started?
Huh.
The championship season, when he came back.
Really?
Because the Warriors were playing so well. And he came back, and he wasn't clicking all cylinders when he came back. Remember, he missed over 2 years of basketball. Jordan Poole was rolling. And we're all having pool parties. And there was a segment of fans. I remember we were getting into it. Poole should start. And the fact that Klay came back and started and Poole went back to the bench despite playing well, I think a lot of fans are like, look, man, we love Klay, but Poole's the future. Poole's this, Poole's that. And I think that was the start of it. Now, Klay played well. He played well down the stretch. But I remember having conversations with you specifically about Jordan Poole. And we had this conversation. I said, you know, if Steve Kerr would have just came out, because Anthony Slater asked the question, you know, when Klay comes back, is he going to start?
Yeah.
And Steve Kerr said, no question, he's starting. Now, if Steve Kerr said, hey, we're going to play it by ear, we're going to see, we're going to fill it out, we're going to bring, well, how can you bring Klay off the bench? I get it. It may damage his confidence. Who knows? Who the hell knows what would happen? But that was, to me, the start of it. I could be wrong there, but I vividly remember when Jordan Poole was rolling and we were having a conversation. I remember he sent the text like, all right, so we know Poole and Curry are closing. Who else? It's like, wait, you don't think Klay Thompson's going to be part of the – remember we had Bob Myers on and he laughed about it. He laughed about it. He's like, Bob, hey, don't be so harsh on him. But, yeah, Klay's going to be in the Final Five. But I felt like that was the start of it, was when Jordan Poole was rolling and the Warriors were rolling and Klay came back and there were some hairy moments in the second half of the season, although Draymond was out with the back injury and Steph Curry with the calf that he suffered against the Boston Celtics. That, to me, was maybe the start of it, to answer that question. Because I was thinking about it during the break. I was like, oh, well, Jordan Poole was starting. Because I remember it. Yeah. People were like, JP's rolling. Why are you bringing him to the bench?
Yeah, I feel like it's been a slow drumbeat for a while. And I can't pinpoint a specific thing. But when they were on the road and the shot selection, this is last year, the shot selection was just all over the place. And then you could just see the body language frustration from him, which felt very new because obviously the guy hasn't struggled much in his career. And I'm watching the body language, and I feel like we've been, as a fan base, hyper-focused on the body language of Klay Thompson more recently. But I thought it started maybe then. But you know, bringing that up, I hadn't thought of that.
Remember that, though?
You're right.
Remember that, though? We were having discussions about Poole starting. And then he went to the bench, but he played well. I thought Poole played well in his first ever postseason. He averaged over 17. And yeah, he had some struggles, but it was his first ever postseason. And he had some dynamic games. We all forget Memphis game 1 when Draymond got ejected. Jordan Poole dropped 31 in that game.
Yeah, I always had this template of what I thought Klay Thompson was, and he's matured a lot. He's changed. I mean, to go from 23 to 33, you're going to change a lot. I did. From 33 to 43, I'm about to change a lot, you know? And so I thought he was more aloof and didn't care and just didn't, like, above all the fray. And now it's like, nah, he really, really, really cares.
He does care.
And lives and dies with each shot. You could feel the emotion weighing on him at times. And I think he's really hard on himself. I mean, there's a lot of guys that I know that younger, that I coach that are really too hard. I tell them, like, you're too hard on yourself. You have to accept the failures. They're going to happen. The amount of times I tell a kid, Willie Mays batted .302 career lifetime, and you think you should be on base 10 out of 10 times? Like, that's not reality. And I feel like there's times where Klay Thompson really feels like every shot he puts up should go in, and he's too hard on himself. And I think it wears on him.
No, it does. And you know what? I get it. I do get it. But Klay, it's going to be a topic of conversation. What happens with him? Let's get to the lines real quick before we play the Steve Kerr sound on Draymond Green. Because that's when I was just thinking, when did it start? Because Klay was so lovable. Then all of a sudden he comes back from injury, and all of a sudden we're nitpicking every little thing that he does. VAR from San Diego. VAR, what's happening?
How y'all doing, gentlemen?
What's up, VAR?
I actually was supposed to be in New Orleans today for this Warriors game, hypothetically. Today's my 21st that I had everything lined up.
Oh, happy birthday.
Getting ready to pull up. Thank you. But I was just listening to you guys' conversation about Draymond Green and Klay. And my thing about those two is I think the main goal of this franchise is to maximize the abilities of Steph Curry. I don't think this franchise has had a player like Steph. I don't think there will be another one to come after Steph to give us the production that he has given us. So as long as he is wearing the number 30 with the Golden State logo on his chest, I think the Warriors should maximize everything that he has. And also, I mean, we all love Klay and Dre, but the inconsistencies that those two have given us is very, very telling. But coming with that, I think Klay's skills are more replaceable than Draymond's. And we can find someone in the open market that can give us shooting, not as good as Klay's in his prime, but he can also defend the best player. I think part of the reason why Klay has struggled is in his prime, in his physical prime, he could shoot with the best of them, and he can also defend the best players. And I don't think he can do that anymore. So I just think that keeping Klay isn't the right option for this franchise, and also going on a full-blown rebuild isn't also the best either.
All right, good take. Let's get to Tolo from Columbus, Ohio, real quick. Then we'll get to Rich from Hayward, Big Smooth. We're gonna get to everybody, and we'll play this curse out after Rich from Hayward. Tolo from Columbus, Ohio. What's happening?
I'm great, boss. How are you?
Good.
Yeah, so I just got a couple of things that I want to talk about. I just feel like we've been on a decline ever since Joe Lacob came out and said that we're light years ahead, right? From that point on, it seems like it's been a steady.
I think they've won like 2 or 3 championships.
I was just going to say that.
He said that.
I was just going to say that. I think they've won 3 since then.
Yeah.
I know, but it's just that there's something about being pompous, and I honestly, guys, at this point, it's very tough for me to watch this team. It's really sad. Like, matter of fact, I stopped watching. It's just so sad. Okay, a couple of things, right? Wiggins, I believe that Wiggins is better than where we're giving him credit for. Okay, when Wiggins came to our team, Steph Curry was better, Klay was better, Draymond was better, the whole team was better. From that point on, everybody has declined. But for some reason, we're putting everything on Wiggins. I don't think that's fair. Okay, now Kerr. Steve Kerr has been horrible. His coaching, his rotation.
I gotta flush you, Tolo. I love you. I want to come to Columbus one day, go to the Horseshoe, watch Michigan, Ohio State. I do want to get to Columbus. I want to go to the Horseshoe. That's on my bucket list. But I got to flush it, man. Steve Kerr's been horrible. You said Joe Lacob ever since he said the light years comment. They won 3 championships since then.
It was 2016 he said that.
Yeah, they won 3 championships since then.
I believe to the New York Times.
Yeah, and it may have been before they signed Kevin Durant or after. Because if they signed him after, then it's really valid. Yeah, we are light years ahead of everybody.
I think you said it right before.
And they signed Kevin Durant. By the way, that flush was brought to you by Flowing Water Plumbing and Drain. Shout out to Flowing Water Plumbing and Drain. If you don't bring it, you will be flushed. Brought to you by Flowing Water Plumbing and Drain. All right. You ready to chill for 5 minutes? Should we take one more? Let's take Richard. We got Richard Hayward, and then we'll play the Steve Kerr set. I know I've been teasing it. We're going to get to it. Let's get to Richard Hayward. Rich.
Hey, guys. Hey, I love the show. I think the Warriors, we're going to make a comeback next year. I believe in the 4 guys, that TJD, Pods, Kuminga, and I think Moody. I think they're going to have a big jump next year. And, and if they bring back Klay, great. I don't think he'll be at the 43. I think he'll probably be at 25, 26. But that's my take on it. I think that Kerr did a better job this year managing the young people and how he got Klay to come off the bench. I didn't expect that. So, but they kind of fit and they play together pretty well, especially TJD and Pods with Klay. Yeah. And that's the main thing I had to say.
All right. I wonder what the tweaks are for the Warriors if they do bring back the big 3. What are the tweaks? But here's Steve Kerr yesterday, his end-of-season presser, and I appreciate Steve Kerr. He answered every question. He had a long answer about Moses Moody, what he needs to do to get better, something we'll touch on. Jonathan Kuminga as well. But here's what Steve Kerr, 5 minutes. Hang tight, everybody. Steve Kerr on Draymond Green.
It's a good question. I mean, I have so much faith in Draymond because I know him so well as a human being. He's flawed. We're all flawed, but he would be the first to tell you he's probably more flawed than the rest of us, right? I mean, he's the one who's had these transgressions, not the other guys. It's been him. And he would be the first to tell you that. But he's one of the most loyal people I've ever met. He's one of the most competitive. He's one of the smartest players I've ever been around. And yet he makes these decisions that hurt the team, that aren't smart. So how do you reconcile all that? It's really difficult. The number one thing I would say is if we decided he wasn't worth it, then we would have moved off of him years ago. But he's worth it, and he's worth it not only because of the banners that are hanging out there, but because he really is a wonderful human being. He is somebody who I love deeply, who I care for, and in some ways I love him because of his flaws, because he's so human. What happened over the last year was it went from maybe him yelling at me and us getting into a tiff, or him getting ejected, or him, running up his technicals or getting a flagrant foul, to, oh, wait a second. It turned violent. He punched Jordan. He grabbed Rudy Gobert by the neck. He flailed it. Like that stuff, that is just by, basic laws of society, basic norms. Like you can't do that, right? So at that point, when the league suspended him, it was the best thing to happen to Draymond. His career was on the line, and it is on the line every day. So, as someone who loves Draymond and values him so much, I am going to continue to help him any way that I can to live his best life, to be the best version of himself, which he really was for the last 2 months. And I'll be really honest, like during the suspension, I was sitting there like, can he actually get a few sessions of therapy and change? I don't think that's possible. But whatever he did over the last 3 months, he was the best version of himself, not just on the court, in the locker room, leading the young guys. His teammates would all tell you how great he was. He had the ejection in Orlando, which became a national story. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just because I understand him so well. I didn't mind the ejection. I mean, yeah, it was bad timing, but if you want to embrace the fact that Draymond is this insane competitor who is just going to play with so much emotion and passion, which makes our team so much better, then you kind of have to accept, all right, he's going to get kicked out a few games a year. That's my approach. The other stuff can't happen. The physical acts, that will cost him his career, not only in the NBA, but beyond the next career. And he knows that. And so that's, Draymond's complex. His relationship with our franchise is complex, but at the core of it is a deep loyalty and passion and love. And we share that with him. And that's really tricky to reconcile. So you almost don't even try to reconcile it. You help him through it, and you make sure he's the best version of himself, and you keep pushing. And then you say something's unforgivable, and then you forgive him for it. I mean, let's be honest. But I think he did cross the line with the stuff that happened early in the season, and he knows it. And his, the rest of his career, he knows the league won't allow him to cross it. We won't let him allow him to cross that line again, because that was different. I think that's my main point. He can yell at me all he wants. He can get ejected. He can get technicals. But that's where it has to stop. And the last 3 months, he was his best self.
That was Steve Kerr yesterday on Draymond Green. And the question was, and yet you forgave him. I mean, are you confident that he's going to be a changed person navigating going forward? I mean, or do you think you could not have him for several games again? Is that just part of the deal? That was the question. Because, look, he missed 27 games this year. 18 was due to the suspension. You know, the Gobert incident, the Nurkic incident. We know what happened last season with the team. Hell, we know what happened up in Sacramento. He got suspended during the playoff series. Hell, first round. You know, game 2 gets Domantas Sabonis, whether you like it or not. He got popped for it. And he went full WWE against the Sacramento Kings fan base in front of Adam Silver and Joe Dumars. But they need Draymond Green. If they want to be serious about contending, they need Draymond Green on the floor. That's Steve on Draymond Green. We're all flawed. He's not lying about that. We're all flawed. Well, boy, the patience with Draymond Green and his fan base, I could see it. I could just feel it wearing thin. I could feel it wearing thin. Hell, some people have already said, enough's enough. Move on. I know how you feel, Shask. I can just tell by the way you're looking at me.
I mean, like, I'm just trying to think of like a recent comp that even comes close. Like Dre Greenlaw would get some pretty bad personal fouls in rough spots, but he never was a guy that broke up the team chemistry in the locker room and was never a guy shouting at other coaches and needed to be managed that much. I'm just asking, like, if you're running any kind of team, business, whatever, like, you're exerting a lot of energy on stuff that has nothing to do with playing basketball.
Yeah.
I am exhausted hearing him do the mental gymnastics to explain what I deem to be like enabler behavior from a variety of levels, the front office, the coaching staff, and other players. And to me, it's absurd. I mean, honestly, it's just absurd. I feel like because the guy's done a lot of things on the court to help you win in years past, we look past a lot of things that shouldn't be looked past. And everyone has their own compass on what they deem to be too much. I've been tapped out and I'm exhausted. I get, looking the other way. I mean, you said like, oh, he's changed so much, except for that game in Orlando. Dog, every game matters. We can accept a couple of suspensions. You couldn't this year. 2 games was the difference between being in the 10 seed and not. So for the longest time, we've been running this race of tolerance over the talent, meaning I will overlook all of the BS because your talent overweighs all of the negative. I think we're beyond that point. And the scales have tipped in the other way, and I'm over it. I think the jig is up. And I just throw my hands up like, all right, y'all want to keep doing this? Fine. I'm good. And how many more of these things do we need to have happen? I don't know. And I'm kind of like, to keep it fully 100, I'm kind of rolling my eyes at Steph and everybody like, come on, guys. You'd say you just want to win and you just want to play basketball. Did you really want to sign up for all this other stuff? Because I don't, as a fan.
Well, I don't think Steph did. You saw him visibly crying in Orlando.
I know, but I'd like to see them put their foot down.
Yeah, well, the only way you do that is by shifting them out. And I don't know if they're going to do that.
Because
he does value.
But they're unlikable with that.
But you know what, though? If they're winning, they're likable. If they're winning, we're all on board. You know what? Here's the cold, harsh reality. Despite all that, they won a lot of games with Draymond Green this past year. 60% of the games he played, they won.
Yeah, but does dignity matter?
No. I'm not saying. I'm presenting the entire argument here and how they're thinking and how they're viewing it. And you can't lie, man. Like, I can't lie. I'm watching the games in and out. We're watching it back and forth. I'm watching it with players. His defense on Zion Williamson, damn. Wow. This guy is still an elite defender. But you do have to play a certain type of brand of basketball with him. Now, the suspensions, that bothers me. And I said this, I've been consistent with this offseason long. I was disappointed because he told us all it was the most important season of his career. And he got suspended twice. And we got Steve Kerr saying what he said yesterday at the end of season presser. This was the most important season of his career. And all those games that he missed. And I'm looking at the standings right now where they're 46-36. And they had the 6th best road record in franchise history since they moved to the Bay Area. And I'm thinking to myself, damn, he was popped for 18 games. You finished 3 games behind the Phoenix Suns for the 6th spot. You finished 4 games behind the Dallas Mavericks in the 5th spot. That's how important Draymond Green is. He's so impactful, he can flip 4 games. And that's why I'm disappointed. You know what I'm saying? And here we are again going through another offseason saying, what do we do with Draymond Green? It's kind of like the Jimmy Garoppolo offseason. Yeah, and Jimmy's not even half the player Draymond is.
That's what I'm saying.
Draymond's walking into the Hall of Fame. And how many times did we go crazy over, oh, man, another quarterback conversation, another offseason full of quarterback talk. Well, now we're heading into another offseason of what's going to be, who's Draymond Green going to be on the floor next year? Is it going to be available for all 82? Is his back going to hold up?
Think he's not going to get suspended next year?
That's the thing.
Does anyone?
That's the thing, man.
And he's told you defiantly he's not going to change over and over again.
And like he impacts winning, but then, you look, you're 4 games behind the 5 spot, but now you're in the 10 spot, not even participating in the playoffs.
Well, and here's the other, no one wants to have this conversation. He's a one-way player that you're paying $25 million a year for 3 more years on. Exactly. And that's a gross overpay, given where you're at in the luxury tax and everything else. I'm sorry, he just is. There's not many people. Right. Everybody laughs at the Gobert contract. Everybody laughs at the Gobert contract. Well, if you step outside of the Bay Area, a lot of people laugh at the Draymond Green contract.
Yeah, they do. Absolutely.
And no one wants to have that conversation because what people want to say is, you don't win championships without him. Yeah, but I'm not winning championships currently with him. And I don't forecast us winning championships with him at that price point moving forward. And that's the calculation that I'm making if I'm running the team.
No doubt. I hear you. Well said. Well said. All right, Dave Fleming, 920. Dave Fleming, 920.
You were closer to the Rockets than you were one of the contending teams.
But you're also 4 games behind the Mavericks. Like that. Like as much as we want to say, hey, you're closer to the Houston Rockets, you're actually closer to the Mavericks.
But the Rockets finished 5 games.
No. I'm not saying they don't need change.
Did that last
I'm not saying they don't need change, but this is the reality, Shasky.
You were one win away from getting to the Western Conference
Finals. I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. They moved off from Poole and, for whatever reason, you win 40. You actually won 2 more games than last year. And you rectified issues on the road. That happened. That happened. So you're actually closer to the Mavericks than you are the Rockets. You actually played all these, but you didn't win these close games.
But when you played the Mavericks, you were outclassed.
You were outclassed 3 out of the 4 games. 3 out of the 4 games.
I mean, they didn't even play Luka, and you lost.
But they didn't play Wiggins and Kuminga either. It works on both sides. It works on both sides. I get Luka's an MVP.
Might not be here next year.
But you gotta. There's context to everything. The Dre deal may turn out to be terrible, and you're right. That's why I have a problem when people say, "Well, Klay should only take 15." You think Klay's going to take 15 with what you just said? What you just said? Draymond's a one-way player. Well, how does Klay feel? He gets buckets. Wiggins, what was he? He's getting 25, and we want Klay to take 15. That's the whole argument. You kind of made my whole argument about Klay. Because Draymond's getting 25. You don't think Klay's like, well, I'm just as important.
I say, make sure you don't